that was a question I had for you. Actually, it's a great segue because the fact that you got to see behind the Iron Curtain, what are some of those misconceptions that some artists may have and managers that are new to the game?
Yeah, like some people, like sometimes people are like, yo, I'm being blackballed. Or some people are like, there's favoritism towards that artist for this reason and that reason. But a lot of times what people don't realize, and mind you, listen, this whole thing that we're doing, I'm going to be super truthful, but at the same time, be respectful of both.
Yeah, of course.
Both entities. No. It has to be said.
Yeah.
Because sometimes niggas just go crazy and just start wilding out.
Yeah.
And whatever. But I think it's important that like people, as much as possible, are able to be educated on both sides because both sides do matter.
I agree.
So it's like, all right, I'll give you a specific instance. I wasn't an executive at this time, but I couldn't understand. So I remember when Dangerous came out, and at the time it was outselling everybody on the label. Even like the biggest A-list artists, it was outselling everybody. Like it was literally
out the gate.
hundreds of thousands a week.
Massive.
And this is sales, so not some make-believe stream.
Yeah.
Because what people don't understand with streaming is like, if I think you suck, I'm still gonna stream you.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So like when people have, I have 1 billion streams, half of those could be people who think you're trash and want to listen to your music and laugh at you. I come from an era where if you have sales, those are people that bought your music because they want to hear your music.
They're paying out of pocket.
They're paying out of pocket. These are people that are, before iTunes are taking their cash.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm either going to buy Kardinal or I'm going to go to the movies. Like it's a either or. Right. These are like intentional decisions to buy your music.
Yeah.
So you got to think about how incredible that is that hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people a week. Now, this is the first time that it happened to me on that scale. But, you know what I'm saying? They're all buying my music. But I remember at the time, I was like, I'm outselling Lady Gaga, but I was like, why is Interscope putting all their attention to Lady Gaga?
Uh-huh.
So it's like, of course, you have all these conspiracy theories. It's because she's white. It's because she's doing pop. It's because this or whatever. But it's like, I really feel looking back at it and having the education now, her contract was different than mine. Meaning I had the ill lawyer who was like, nah, it's not going to be a 360. You guys aren't going to participate.
Theo.
Shout out to Theo Settlemyer.
Yeah.
You guys aren't going to participate in any of his corporate partnerships. You're not getting any publishing, yada, yada, yada.
Just recordings.
Just recordings at the time. But
because that was a big time for 360 deals, right?
No, this is early.
This is prior?
This is when it's first starting. This is when it was still negotiable.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But what was interesting was I think that the way and this, again, not putting out her business, but this is knowing what I know now, I think her deal was different because it's like they know that if they were going to pour all the effort into her, for them it would be a bigger return on investment. So it's like, even though he's selling mad units right now, we're only seeing a certain percentage of that. Mm-hmm. But if we were to do the same with somebody like a Lady Gaga, that's somebody to where it's like, you know what I'm saying? Like they'll be able to participate on so many different fronts.
Gotcha.
That's why you saw Lady Gaga on the Beats by Dre when it first came out. She had her, you know what I mean? She had her own personal joints and whatever.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times, and that's just one random example, but I think what it is that like a lot of artists don't necessarily understand that it's like the one thing about the music business that is very, very odd to people that are outside of the entertainment industry is that there are very few actual standards when it comes to contracts. It's kind of like whatever your lawyer can negotiate.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in 2024, there's no standards.
Yeah.
So it's like, shout out to Jarrell. I remember, a business friend of ours who's in the finance industry, and he was talking to me about just like, certain industry standards, and there's just a way that they do things and things to expect. I'm just like, nah, like me and you could have arguably the same skill set, same numbers, same everything. But if your lawyer sucks and mine is dope, I could get 2 million and you could get 150,000.
Yeah, exactly. It's not what you deserve, it's what you negotiate.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
And I think a lot of times artists don't understand that. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, and it's crazy because artists do come into the picture and they're like, okay, they get a little bit of interest and they'll be like, I want this kind of deal. And be like, I don't know how you're gonna get that without any leverage. I think leverage is a super important part of this business. It's funny, you talk about that same situation about all the different ancillary rights that they recoup on and get more revenue.
Hold on,
from.
I'm looking to camera. Did you see the way that the Colombian use ancillary? I love it. You see how far we've come?
What are you trying to say about those Colombian people?
Loose talk. You see how far we've come? You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my Colombian brother, Elevate. You understand?
Man. Listen, man.
Word up.
I like to read. Man. I like to read contracts.
I'll play with you. I'll play.
Of course, I know.
Yes, sir.
What was I saying?
We're talking
about, now you lost my train of thought. No, ancillary. Yes.
There you go. Yes, sir.
The fact that's an interesting point. And the other side of this, and I don't know for sure, but maybe you can answer this because you're on the other side of the Iron Curtain and I've never been on that side, just as management. But I always had this, and I'll tell you, to be honest, I remember having this conversation with one of the presidents. They will remain nameless here in Canada. And we were talking about potentially doing a deal. And this person said to me, well, if we can do the deal here, then we can partner up with a partner in the US. And what I said was, well, explain to me how that's of benefit to my client. Because doesn't that just mean that the participation coming from the record label in the US is only going to be 50%? So if they do double the amount of work but get only 50% of the revenue, why would they focus on the artist that signed to Canada? And this person looked back at me and said, you're not wrong. I always thought about it, and I'm like, is this a fact as well, too, that like it doesn't really make the most sense to do a deal and then look for a partner in the U.S. versus trying to get signed in the U.S.?
I would say it really...
If you're looking for a major label.
It really depends.
Yeah.
It really depends. Like, if you take it like, all right, listen, I'm going to take it back to before we even get to that, because that's like few steps above like your general deal. Every situation is different.
Yeah.
So it's like, things that kind of, I don't know, it kind of irks me these days to where it's like there's this whole narrative where, people solely speak out against the major label system. Right. You know what I'm saying? And as an artist, I've participated in that for most of my career. I think like any other business partnership, you have to really understand what it is that you're getting into to see if it's beneficial to you. You feel what I'm saying?
Of course.
Contracts are literally, in my opinion, way too detailed. But it's like, by the time you get the long form, and for those artists that don't really know what it is, because there's probably a lot of ill artists that are out there and have no idea what a short form is, long form, execution, all that. But the long form is the final version of the contract that you sign for whatever label, and it details everything with all the legal jargon or whatever.
Yeah. For those who don't know, a long form is like, it could be like this.
Shoot. Sometimes it's like 100 pages.
That's what I'm saying. And a short form is a page.
It could be a page, 5 pages.
5 pages, yeah.
Just a condensed
summary
version.
of the
exactly.
deal points. Yeah.
But my thing that irks me as just somebody that knows that we all have equal access to it, in a way, is that if you're able to get representation, you have to be able to have the patience to sit down with your lawyer and go over everything and say, talk to me about this. What am I signing? Because there's no point in just signing away something 2 years later to be like, oh, this is happening, blah, blah. When it was laid out to you before you signed, you had the option not to sign. And I think, it can go two ways, because sometimes I think what happens is, you get people from underserved communities who's like, yo, it's either I'm going to go back to this dangerous, risky, you know what I mean, life that I've been living in the streets or whatever the situation is, or maybe it's something to where it's like you've had a lot of trauma in your life, and you know what I'm saying, it's like the record deal is the better option. So, some people look at that as taking advantage. There's always two sides to the coin, but either way, I think that it's mega important that you read your contracts and have a thorough understanding of what it is that you're signing.
Yeah.
And once you sign that, that's that. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like once you sign the contract, it's as much on you as it is on the label. So you can't go into any situation ignorantly and then get upset because you didn't take the time to fully understand what's happening. In your case, where we're starting to talk about not just joint ventures, but we're talking about like different territories. It's important to also understand as much as you can, and your lawyer should be able to explain it if management also needs to be educated on it. It's important to understand like how these different systems work, whether it's the Warner Music Group or UMG or whatever it is. There's all different layers to how excuse me, each territory will participate. So it really depends. Because the same way that, you might be like, well, how does my artist benefit if I sign in Canada, but then we partner with a US label? Mm-hmm. Some people look at that as like, well, if they haven't invested a whole lot, they don't have a lot at stake. So it's cool. Like if they don't really fuck with the artist like that, you know what I'm saying? They can just let it go to the wayside because they're like, it's Canada, whatever. They got it. But in the same breath, if you're a dope artist, you understand what I'm saying? And it's like they've only invested this much, but you know what I'm saying? Like depending again on the structure, might be able to benefit more. So, all right, let me try and uncomplicate it and just speak in layman's terms. Sometimes what happens with territories like Canada and others around the world is somebody might be signed in the US.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm making it up. Say it's a Taylor Swift or Taylor Swift type artist.
Yep.
Most of the investment happens in their home territory.
Mm-hmm.
But when you now go into other territories, territories that you're partnered with, what ends up happening is, say if it's Canada and they're not, Taylor's not signed to Canada, we get all the benefit because we don't have, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like we have next to nothing in terms of investment, like sure, marketing and so forth, but most of the lion's share is coming from their home territory. We stand to benefit and to gain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So in the grand scheme of things, think about it like this. If we're manufacturing pants, right? And it's like all the pants are manufactured in the States, all the cost is over there. And somebody just says, hey, I'm giving you these pants. You're getting the pants for $1.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We took care of the $99. You're getting it for $1.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What it does is it opens up the margins. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like we're still, if somebody buys the pants in our territory.
That's a good point.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a good point because I think a lot of people will think just because it's universal music that it's like just this one big pot of money and then it kind of distributed across.
No. It's
but
very
not
complex.
Like
It's very complex. It's very layered. Different situations, different things happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. And, doesn't matter who the president was, what he told you was the truth. But again, it really depends on like what that situation was for your client at the time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because for some it doesn't make sense, but for others it definitely does. But it's not limited to Canada because I see that happen with Africa.
Yeah.
See that happen with other territories. You know what I'm saying?
That's
where
fair.
It's like they want to either partner up with a different territory, or it's like they're like, you know what, we're going to bypass our home territory to sign directly in the States. It really depends on the situation.
How does an artist become a priority on a label, on a major label? Maybe even dial that back. What does a priority actually mean?
A priority means that you're going to have the focus of the needle movers in that company. Right. You know what I'm saying? The priority means that there's an all hands on deck where they're like, whether it's one artist or 10 artists, we're like, yo, we're putting all of our resources behind this because we believe that this artist right now has the leverage, you know what I'm saying, has the traction and the movement, and it makes sense to pour gas on the fire. Mm-hmm. Really, that's what it is. And sometimes new artists, they get into a label and they don't understand why artist X, why it's like it seems like the label is doing everything they can to have this artist win, and they're not seeing the same kind of movement.
Right.
But I think again, this is not limited to the music industry, though. It's like within any industry, when you're the new kid on the block, you got the new product, whatever, you have to prove yourself. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? People are not just going to be like, oh, she's cute. Yeah, sure. Let's put all our money into it. Nah. Shout out to a man like Darkest Beast. I remember.
Shout out Darkest.
Who's
got a book out now, by the way.
That's right. That's right. Make sure you ordered Darkest's book, even the audio book he's got out. But I remember I went to go see him one time. And shout out to all the mentors around the world that ever just took time to sit down with me and, show me some game. But he's like, yo, think about it like this. He was like, I remember we got to think about how we invest in artists much differently. Two things. He's like, Cardi, if I went to the bank tomorrow just as a regular guy and said, yo, I have this artist. His name is Ruiz. He's fire.
Colombian.
Matches.
You
know what I'm saying?
Head to toe.
Yo, I need $1 million. The bank is gonna look at him and be like,
link me.
They're just gonna the door is that way. It's not a thing. They're gonna be like, okay, well, what are you putting up against that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how are you gonna guarantee that we're gonna get our money back?
It's an investment.
Nah, but like imagine he's just like, nah, but I'm telling you, it's vibes. Like the streets love him. The bank will be like, word, all right, cool, whatever.
Right.
He's like, people don't understand that that's what record labels do all the time. When people come through the door, and doesn't matter what it is, it could be a super refined pop artist or like the most grimy whatever, like, kid from the streets. At the end of the day, they're going to do what they got to do. Like, sure, some people will run a P&L, profit and loss exercise to try and make sense of it. Mm-hmm. But the reality is that we're like, yo, we believe that just based on this person's talent alone, that we're going to see a return on our investment.
Right.
And it's not like as if the artist flops, all of a sudden they're going to take the artist's house or whatever. It's like if it flops, the company writes it off.
I always do hear that term that says like, it's a bad loan or a bad investment that you're taking from the label. And that doesn't like connect to me because that's a loan you don't have to pay back.
Two ways. I understand why people do say that though, because the thing is how they're looking at it, right?
Well,
from the artist.
The only downside to that is what I was going to say, because I just think about that in terms of like your credit doesn't get fucked, but in the real world. But what it does fuck you over with is you are now more than likely tied into a situation as an artist, and you can't get out of that deal unless you do have a good lawyer, a contract that can help you get kind of through that. Somebody in the building that is like your champion, because if you do have people in the building that really mess with you, but it didn't work out, then they'll figure it out for you. But that's where I see that it could be beneficial or it could be complicated for the artist to get out of a situation and just kind of have their hands tied. Because I know you've been through that a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken, as well, too, right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, thank God I've never...
As an artist. Yeah.
I've never really been in a situation to where, on the major label side, to where my hands have been tied for real.
Yeah.
Publishing, yes. Publishing, I got locked in for mad long. And, rest in peace to Dean Cameron. Dean Cameron gave me an opportunity to release an album at a time where I needed, like, I think one more project to be able to get out of my publishing deal. And I was locked in for a long time. And then after I put that joint out, I was able to be free and clear from publishing. But outside of that, I've been blessed, like I said, to have amazing legal representation from, I would say from day one. I did have a very trash, I won't mention her name, but I had a trash Canadian lawyer when I first started. And it was a very good example. I'm a very, very big believer in God, by the way. So I believe that God showed me that at that time so that when the big opportunities came, I knew, you know what I'm saying? Like I knew how to approach them. I knew when to be weary, you know what I'm saying? Like when to really think about things. But just going back to when we're talking about the deals, the thing about major label deals is, one, we live in a time where deals are taking different forms and different shapes. So it's not the same as like everything is just living within this box when it comes to deal structure. Yeah. There's a lot of leverage that artists have right now. And I think especially because they have access to so many different ways to get their music out. I think even though it might be a slow evolution, there is an evolution in the way that some deals are structured. You feel what I'm saying? So whether you're an artist that has all the leverage or you have savvy representation, there is a way to make sure that you can participate. And I still think, or else I wouldn't work with them, I still think there's an extreme value with partnering with a label, as long as you know what I'm saying, like you do all the necessary groundwork with your lawyer to make sure that what you want and what you need is in that contract.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's two sides to it. I know people that talk about...
And I agree to that. I think a lot of people think that I'm anti-label, but I'm not. I'm just like anti-bad deal.
For sure.
That's
me too.
Yeah.
That's me too, because don't get it twisted. Any corporation, at the end of the day, and I tell my artists this all the time, like their main goal is to exploit you.
Yes.
But the thing is, it's like you can't look at that as a bad thing. That means that the gift that you have is something that is sought after by somebody. So when you go into a deal with your eyes open, knowing what that relationship is, you know what I'm saying? Then you know better how to have a better relationship. You can't think that you're gonna go in there and like, I don't know, all of a sudden they're just gonna treat you like a king and it's gonna be this way and that way. You have to understand what the nature of the relationship is. And once you understand that, then you know how to be savvy, you know how to navigate. And I think that's what's really, really important. And you're seeing a lot of amazing artists in this day and age start to flourish, is because they do take the time to learn about the business, to understand the industry and what it is that they're getting into.
Yeah, I agree. It's more important than ever, it seems like. Oh, hey there. How are you? As you know, a conversation like this doesn't come cheap. Therefore, I just need you to hit the subscribe button so we can continue to provide you value. Thank you.